Hi everyone, my name is Riley and I'm the inaugural curatorial resident with the Here and There in 2025. I've been working on this show titled Same Same But Different during my residency, and it engages with ideas of repetition and failure. I was initially interested in repetition through an art historical lens. I was thinking about the way that Andy Warhol and mid-century minimalists have kind of co-opted seriality and repetition to find new ways to look at art and objects in commodity culture. Meanwhile, repetitive craft practices or reproductions have kind of been devalued or pushed to the fringes of what we consider quote-unquote high art. I've been interested in the ideas of memory as fallible, and in each retrieval of an instance or a person, they've been changed through this reconstructive process of memory. That ultimately led me to this conclusion that all things fail, that even things that feel very constant and very repetitive will ultimately fall apart. I think bodies fail, machines fail, memories fail, as much as we would like them not to. I was really looking for artists who were kind of examining this point of conflict between repetition and failure, between constancy and kind of rupture. The language of failure here is really intentional. I wanted to work against the kind of like negative judgments and also disappointments that kind of come with the term failure, but also working against these rhetorics of failing forwards, failing better, or failure is the mother of success. So kind of like attempts to radicalize failure as a stepping stone to success. This exhibition takes the position of failure as a departure from an intended outcome. And that's kind of the space that we're trying to examine in this exhibition. This exhibition is titled Same Same But Different. It's a Singaporean colloquial English, also known as Singlish. You would use it to describe two objects that are very similar, but maintain some level of differentiation. So I've heard like clementines and mandarins are same but different. As an English Creole language, and as the result of intense colonial contact, Singlish comes laden with a lot of complicated dynamics with colonialism, globalization, and modernization. In the early 2000s, the Singaporean government launched what's called the Speak Good English movement. And these were attempts to kind of suppress Singlish. But even today, the Creole remains very deeply entwined with national identity. I was really interested in this idea of same but different because this failure to be quote unquote correct in proper English through the repeating of same kind of becomes this new, enduring, and naturalized expression on its own. One of the artists in this exhibition is Rachel Youn. They take old machines or secondhand and modify them, adding clothing and artificial plants. And these very strange machines become vectors for intimacy, pitifulness, humor, and eroticism. A lot of the machines that Rachel uses are actually those that are meant to replace human touch and labor. So they can be massagers, exercise machines, or even baby rockers. Even though they do attempt to perform these same actions, the machines will ultimately fail. They will fail to simulate a human, but they will also fail in their literal functioning. What really drew me into these works was the idea that these machines will ultimately succumb to the movements that they were programmed to do into eternity. I was really interested in kind of like this constant threat of failure, the way that failure is known in its inevitability, but also remains unknown in its proximity to the present. Because these are sourced secondhand, the artist and the viewer don't really know what the life and usage of this machines previously were. So we kind of engaging in an act of faith, trusting in these machines, allowing them to kind of run themselves into the ground. I think that there's something really anxious and stressful about these objects that kind of are constantly approaching failure, but persisting nonetheless. The next artwork that I want to talk about is a work by Alexander Ugay. It's titled More Than 100,000 Times, and it features members of the Korean diaspora in this former Soviet Union, also known as the Koryo saram or Koryo-in, who have moved to Korea to work in factories. Alexander asks them to perform the same repetitive movements that they do in factories outside, near their homes, in the streets and suburbs of South Korea. And so the third artist in this exhibition is Chong Yu Chen. We've included some of her drawings from her choral dictionary series. A few years ago, when Chang Yu Chen was doing a residency in Malaysia, she came across a Malay, Chinese, and English dictionary from the 1970s. At the same time, she was observing these dead coral bodies washing up on the shores of Malaysia and realizing that she could read them. She calls it a feroliteracy. Chang Yu Chen takes the example sentences from this dictionary and translates them one more time into this assembled choral language that she's put together. Yu Chen is examining the way that there's no such thing as a pure translation. And that partially can be attributed to the fact that there's no such thing as pure language. There's no language that exists outside of culture or outside of history. And so every translation comes with its own cultural context, and that kind of warps the meaning of the sentence across languages. In talking with Isabel from Small Editions, who did the design for this exhibition and ephemera, she and I were talking about how waves wear down coral into sand. And I was really drawn to this imagery, partially because this process defies our expectations for an essential core. A pearl can be reduced to the original grain of sand, and in Western cosmology, the human body is often seen as a shell for the soul. Meanwhile, as these corals kind of break down through these repetitive processes, they don't reveal anything more true about the object itself. The sand is as much the coral as the coral itself. And much like these repetitive acts of wearing coral down into sand, Chang Yu Chen's acts of translation are not a form of distillation. They don't reveal something more true about the original statement. Rather, they kind of disperse its meaning, allowing it to grow and multiply and fracture, repeating, yes, but also failing to repeat at the same time. And for the identity and ephemera of this exhibition, we were working with Small Editions, which is a New York-based design studio. In this exhibition text, we were thinking a lot about rote mechanization and rote repetition. And so we have these very long gallery guides that kind of create this sense of repetition that I wanted to pervade the entire exhibition. And so that is Same, Same, But Different. It is on view at 54 Henry Street, Long Story Short Gallery, until December 19th, 2025. And I really hope that you come and see it. Thank you.